What's up YouTube, this is Bystander X79 and I'm coming to you with the first video in a new video series called Dueling Academy 101. Alright, what I plan to do with this particular series of videos is to walk new players through the rulebook and just give an explanation about what is expected of you while you're playing this game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Alright, with that being said, key thing to do here is to actually be able to download the rulebook from the official site. So we're on the official site right now. We come over here to the gameplay. First thing on the gameplay is the rulebook. So you come over here, click on the link, and right here, first thing, click the download. I've already done it for you guys, so we just click off that. And here we are with the rulebook. I've expanded it a little bit. I'm going to move it over for you guys so you can take a look. Alright, so what this first video is going to do is basically cover things that you need to play the game. Alright, pretty straightforward. The first and foremost you're going to need a deck. I can't play the game without the cards. So your deck can be anywhere between 40 and 60 cards. Okay? A lot of players like to keep their decks closer to the minimum 40 because it's easy to draw into cards that they need when they need to. Although there has been success with 60 card decks as well. It really depends on what particular style of deck you're running. And if you want a little bit more information about that, Team APS actually did a video of this recently about picking the deck that best suits your needs. Alright, I have a link to their YouTube channel on my homepage, so check that out after you finish viewing this video. Another thing about this is that in your deck, you're only allowed to have 3 copies of a card with the same name in your deck. It doesn't matter if the card has different artworks. If it has the same exact name, it's considered the same card. Alright? Also be very careful with it because it counts between main deck, extra deck, and side deck as well. That limit counts between main deck, extra deck, and side deck. Excuse me for repeating. Alright? And also keep an eye on some of the cards. They could be banned, they could be limited, or they could be semi-limited. For various reasons. Alright, I've done plenty of videos with the ban list reactions. It's on the official website as well. I think it's like the second one after downloading the rules. Alright, so that's for the main deck. Now you also allow an extra deck. An extra deck can be anywhere between 0 and 15 cards, which means 0 means you don't have to play an extra deck, and up to 15 cards, which means you can actually have anywhere from between 1 to 15 cards in your extra deck. Again, be wary of the ban list situation when choosing your cards. They could be limited, banned, or semi-limited. Basically, an extra deck is where we keep your Fusion, your Synchro, your Xyz, and your Link monsters. Alright? Before you start the game, you don't keep those monsters in your main deck. You keep them in the extra deck, and then you summon them out from the extra deck as you play. Alright? And the third thing is the side deck. Now, I mentioned this before. The side deck is really a competitive sideboard. This really comes up a lot more when you're playing in tournament-style structures. Typically, you play a best-of-3 game match, which means the first player to win 2 games out of 3 games is going to be the winner of the entire match. And between the individual games of a match, you're allowed to modify your deck with the cards in your side deck by exchanging 1 card from your side deck with 1 card in your main deck. And that's how it works. You have to have the same number of cards in your side deck that you started with at the beginning of the duel. Alright, so if you have a 15 card side deck, you should have 15 cards after you've modified your deck to help you with specific matchups. And that's what the side deck is really used for. It helps generate a little bit more advantage. Do be careful because players aren't going to turn around and side in cards to help protect themselves against cards that you're siding in. Alright, other things that you might need to duel with. There are card effects that require you maybe to flip a coin. You can use your standard quarter. Sorry about that. It's big enough to see heads or tails. I mean, if you don't like using the metal money coins, Best case scenario would be to turn around and maybe use a plastic coin, which is a little bit more fairer, considering that if you want to split hairs, yeah, the heads on a quarter might have a lot more mass and will cause tails to come up a little bit more often. But if you're alright with using money, fine. Another thing about it is that some card effects might use call for use to do a dice roll. A standard 6-sided die is used for those effects. As long as it says 1 through 6 on it, you're good. Typically, dice are also important for deciding who goes first. A lot of players like like rolling dice, and whoever gets the highest roll, they decide who goes first or second. All right. If you don't have any card effects that use coins or a 6-sided die, feel free to utilize multi-sided die like this 10-sided die I have here. It goes from 0 to 9. It can also be used to help start the game, and you can also turn around and use this in place of one of the things that says here is called counters. Counters are generated by certain card effects. Typically, you can use small coins like pennies or dimes as counters, or you can utilize a dice if you could be a multi-sided die like a 10-sided die to turn around and keep track of the number of counters that are on a particular card. If you know you're going to be putting multiple counters on a particular card. Monster tokens, these are also generated by card effects. A lot of the more recent structure decks have been giving us token cards, and these token cards can be used as any tokens as well for your needs, as long as you just apply the right attack, defense, typing, and attribute to the monsters, you're good. Other things you can utilize are calculator. Some players go out and buy an actual Duel calculator. Other people download an app to help them onto their smartphones to help them keep track of their life points while they're playing. And other times, people like to just do pen and paper. I'm more of the latter. I like to write down the life points, keep a running track. This way I can just turn around and see what's going on. Now it says things that can help you during a duel. Card sleeves. These, I can tell you this right now, card sleeves really shouldn't be optional. These are like pretty much mandatory if you really want to be playing a little bit more. What I have right here is a package of Ultra Pro Mat gaming sleeves. These are the small size, specifically geared for Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Pro Mat, these actually turn around and don't have the glare that a lot of other sleeves might have when you put the monsters on the face up on the field. I kind of like the Pro Mat versions a little bit better. They have a nice feel to them as well, so that's all cool. All right, so like I said, if you're gonna be playing in tournaments and stuff like that, you're gonna be wanting to have your cards in a sleeve. The card sleeves, you can pick them up on a lot of different websites. They usually run around $3-4 per pack, and they usually come 60 sleeves per pack. So you're gonna have enough for your main deck as well as your side deck. Okay. Another thing that's pretty important to actually have, or actually to understand more or less if you're just starting out, is the layout of the game field. Okay? Now the rulebook does give you a whole 2-page spread about what the game field looks like. As you can see, there's 7 different zones. I'm going to go through them as well. Alright, so up here in number 1, let's see if I can just scroll this and zoom it in a little bit so you can see a little bit better. Okay, right there. Move this down. Okay, right here. Okay, so zone number 1. These are your main monster zones, alright? This is where you summon your monsters in attack or defense position. Attack position monsters are always placed vertical and they're face up. Defense position monsters could be placed horizontally, either face up or face down. Alright, we'll get into the battle positions a little bit later. The second set of zones behind the main monster zones, these are your spell and trap zones. You're allowed to have 5 monsters or 5 spell and traps on the field at any one point. Okay, now the thing about this is that if you notice on the leftmost and the rightmost spell and trap zones, these are specially marked for where you set your pendulum scales if you're running a pendulum deck or a pendulum engine in your deck. Okay, again, we're going to discuss pendulum summoning when we talk about monsters in the next video. Okay, so just note that that your pendulum scales do count towards the back row total number of 5 spell and traps that you're allowed to have in the field. Okay, so that's the main monster zones, spells and trap zones. Up here, number 3, that's going to be the graveyard, or what we call the discard pile in Yu-Gi-Oh. A lot of times, anytime a monster is destroyed or tributed or used for another effect, the monsters are usually sent right here. Monsters or spells or traps are usually sent to the graveyard. Any card effects that involve using the graveyard will be marked with the capital GY in their text. Okay. Number 4, this is where you place your main deck. You place it face down in that zone. You draw cards from the deck as you move on. Number 5, this is a special zone called the Field Spell Zone. Field spells go in this particular place. Only each player is allowed to have 1 field spell on their field at a time. If you want to activate another one, you take an old field spell, send it to the graveyard, and you put it into the new spot as well. Field spells can be placed face down as well. Just keep that in mind. And they do not count to the total number of 5 spell and traps on the field. Okay. Number 6, this is where you place your extra deck, your fusion, synchros, exceeds, and link monsters. They all go into extra deck, and this is the zone you place that extra deck face down on the field. Last but not least, we have the 2 extra monster zones up here above the main monster zones. Extra monster zones are where you summon monsters from the extra deck too. Alright? And the thing about it is that once you summon a monster from your extra deck to the extra monster zone, that zone becomes yours and the other zone automatically becomes your opponent's. Alright, now there are ways around that particular rule. We'll discuss that a little bit later when we talk about link monsters, but there are other ways to get multiple monsters from your extra deck onto the field as well. Again, we'll talk about that when we get to link monsters as well. Alright? Extra monster zones do not count to the total number of monsters you can have on the field in your main monster zone as well. Alright, so that's the mat. Mats come in a variety of different things. You get paper mats in your starter and structure decks every year. At various events or through various other means, you can actually get rubberized mats. I know Konami gives out rubberized mats at official events like sneak peeks, or you can win them at tournaments as well. Some of the other players, they actually can turn around and create their own mats. I actually happen to put right up here, you see a beautiful Sky Striker mat there I got from Sam from Team Samurai. I am a bit of a fan of his channel, and I'm also supporting him on Patreon. Mats can come with or without zones. The mat that I just showed you actually did have all the various card zones. The other mat that I used to shoot my deck profile videos on, the kind of mat doesn't have zones on it. So just be wary and know what you need, where to place your cards when you're playing the game. Okay. And like I said before, mats can be paper, they could be the rubberized mats, which I just showed you. They also create cloth. People can also create cloth mats as well. It's really all about personal preference about what you want to play with. I myself prefer the rubberized mats because they tend not to move around a lot when you're using them. All right, so that's the end of the first video. Gear to get started dueling, guys. If you want to see more content like this on my channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Enable notifications to turn around and be alerted whenever I throw up a new video. Like I said, this is the first video in a whole series of me walking new players through the rulebook on how to play this game and understanding what the game is a little bit about. So any experienced players out there, if you have a new friend that wants to get into the game, I would definitely show them this video, help them get ready to be able to play. Alright? And with that being said, until next time, guys, peace.